It began to rain heavily. The raindrops splattered and softly stuttered rat-tat-tat-tat-tat as they bounced off the leaves and branches. Soon the forest floor was a squelching mud. We walked through the rain for about an hour before we found the cave. The cave's toothless mouth yawned out into the forest, but it was too black to see inside its throat. Without pause, Hano walked down into it. Deeper into the cave, the passage was lit by gently green glowing mushrooms, and occasionally flaming torches that someone had fastened to the walls. We marched on, and the passages grew narrower until we could only walk single file. It was hard to tell how long we had been in there. There was no other noise but the echoing of our steps. The air was as quiet and still as that of a sealed mausoleum. We came to a fat little chamber in the cave where 3 passages proceeded, to the left, the right, and straight ahead. All led down into blackness. Which would you prefer? Can you smell anyone down there? Hano asked. I could not. Well, nothing to do but pick a path and continue down it until we find him. We should be able to find our way back by only choosing paths that go up, Hano reasoned. I think he was trying to reassure himself. We took the left passage. I began to look out for frogs, whom I could perhaps ask for directions. But my investigation was interrupted by a deep voice, sobbing in the gloomy distance. Hano began to soften his steps, to move silently. We could see that the passage opened to a chamber ahead. Suddenly, a pile of rocks that Hano had stepped on slipped, and they noisily tumbled over. The crying stopped immediately. We entered the chamber. There stood a large knight, in yellow armour, and a black helmet that covered his face. He coughed.
I'm Sir Tettedebonnon. Are you perhaps lost? Do you need help, young man?
His deep booming voice echoed from out of his metal helmet, and thence around the cave. We thanked him for his kind offer, and suggested that he could come with us, and that together we could find our way out of this cave. He agreed that, as he had finished his important business in the cave, this was a wise and sensible suggestion. Hano's plan of finding our way out of the cave by only choosing the passage that went up was easier thought than walked. We tried to go back solely by the route we had come by, but in the gloom it was impossible to remember. Whenever we chose a passage that started to reach up toward the surface, after a dozen steps it began to climb back down into the earth. Soon we were lost. But then, suddenly, we heard singing. Distinctly, from one of the passages ahead, there came a beautiful voice singing softly. I couldn't tell if it was a man or a woman. The voice was slight, but it felt like it went right through me, and I could hear every word.
In the darkness and the dampness, carefully, specially, searchingly, hungrily, none to see us nor to smell us, subtly, wonderfully, liberally, lustily, spread our birth into the earth, just like that.
We followed the song's path through the air as we proceeded into the dark. As we continued, the walls began to glow a softly throbbing green. The passage widened, and we walked into a large chamber, about the size of a modestly wealthy lord's dining hall. The pulsing green light was coming from the walls, which were covered with many more mushrooms than we'd seen before. We took 3 more steps, and suddenly the ground disappeared, and we fell into a black pit.
We would like to know if you are still alive.
We looked up and saw a figure standing over the edge of the pit. The speaker's skin was gaunt and taut. Their eyes were a cold green. They had silver-white hair, finer than any I'd seen. Despite the absence of wind in the cave, their hair flowed. Strands of it moved and stretched in the air, as if looking for something. They seemed neither man nor woman.
This is our cave you've entered, and our trap that you've fallen into.
The same voice that had sung to us was speaking to us now. The figure wore dark grey robes and, I noticed, had a shining red ruby the size of an egg on a ring on their right hand. They broke off a toadstool from the wall with their left hand, put it into their mouth and chewed it slowly, without taking their green gaze from us.
You, Yellow Man, we've watched you for 5 days. But you...
They pointed their ruby-red finger at Hano.
You have mystified us since you entered our cave.
Hano got to his feet. We had fallen, perhaps 4 meters? Fortunately, the ground was soft and soily. Hano showed no signs of being hurt, and I, of course, always land on my feet. "My name is Hano," Hano began.
We know,
The strange figure interrupted. "Assuming that you have deliberately trapped us down here, I think the polite place for you to start will be by telling us your name," Hano said.
we are the Mycelial Mage. Now, one of 2 things will happen. You will stay down there for the rest of your lives. Then we will recycle you. Or you will put on these handcuffs, and we will throw down a rope.
"Fine," Hano said firmly.
Agreed.
Behind his helmet, Tettedebonnon spoke through clenched teeth. The mage threw down 2 lengths of thin silver rope.
Now tie yourselves. Make it tight, or we will leave you and come back to speak with you when you are bones.
Slowly, Hano and Sir Tettedebonnon tied their hands together with the rope handcuffs. They proffered forth their bound wrists so that the mage could approve. The rope looked strong, but I could see that Hano was keeping his forearms flexed. I suspected that the tie was looser than it appeared. When the Mycelial Mage was satisfied that they were secured, they left, and soon reappeared with a ladder made from that same silken rope.
Now you ascend.
The mage spoke. Carefully, with their wrists clasped together in front of them, first Hano and then Sir Tettedebonnon climbed the ladder, occasionally gripping a rung with their teeth. I scrambled up after them, grasping the rope with my claws. We came out further into the chamber than before, and could now see it entire. At the end of the chamber, there was the largest toadstool I have ever seen, a dark blood-red colour, with white splotches. On it perched the Mycelial Mage, their green gaze still tracking us unblinkingly. Next to them there was a pig pen where a fat pink pig snorted, snuffled, and gobbled up red berries that were scattered in the dirt.
Now, who are you to deliberately trap a knight of the...
But Sir Tettedebonnon didn't manage to say anything further, because the Mycelial Mage stood up from the toadstool and extended their right hand towards Sir Tettedebonnon.
We know that you are here for the pig. You will not take her.
The ruby atop the mage's ring glowed a hot red, and with a clang Sir Tettedebonnon sat down hard. His cuffed hands grasped dirt. The Mycelial Mage flipped their palms towards us. The air around those stone-coloured fingers shimmered. A giant cloud of silvery dust gathered around their hands and arms. Each hair on the mage's head rose up, like slow snakes readying a strike, twirling in the air to point towards Sir Tettedebonnon. The silver dust cloud flew toward him and burrowed into the ground. Like rushing water, bright grey roots leapt from the dirt and tied his wrists down. Sir Tettedebonnon shouted numerous insults toward the Mycelial Mage, most of which I didn't understand. The mage softly said,
There.
and turned to look at Hano.
We will know what your purpose is in our cave, Hano.
I have no desire to steal your pig, Mycelial Mage. I only wish to return him safely to my employer, the Fairy Queen, Hano said, pointing to Sir Tettedebonnon. I could see that he had bent his knees slightly, and his weight was on the balls of his feet. Hano was ready to move.
Now we understand. We cannot allow you to tell the Fairy Queen that we have a pig. I'm sorry, Hano. You will never leave this cave.
The Mycelial Mage raised their hands, and the red ruby glowed again.